That's right. One of those themes that I'd like to tease out with you a little bit, as you mention it, regarding basically the theme of vocation. That comes up over and over again in Jayber Crow in particular. I love at the beginning of the book, he is starts off with telling the story of his becoming an orphan. His parents died when he's young, and then the aunt and uncle that are caring for him die when he's young, and he ends up going to an orphanage. And in that orphanage, he kind of senses this call to ministry, if you will, in the old rural sense, the old Baptist sense, I guess, a call to ministry. And so he goes off to the seminary, a local Bible college in Kentucky. And he, as he's there, he realizes maybe I'm not quite so cut out for this. And, I love this exchange he has with one of his professors towards the end of chapter 6. He says, I said, well, for now I was ashamed. I had the feeling that I had been called. And you may have been right, says the professor, but not to what you thought, not to what you think. You have been given questions to which you cannot be given answers. You will have to live them out, and perhaps a little by little. And he goes on to say, well, how long will this take? I don't know, says the professor. As long as you live, perhaps. That could be a long time, says Jayber. Well, I can tell you a further mystery. It may take longer. And what does that tell us about a Christian understanding of vocation? Because I know I myself kind of identify with that, coming from a evangelical background, had a sense of call to ministry, and that didn't work out for me either. And that's one of the things I love about Jayber Crow is I find myself in that scenario over and over again, thinking through that. But even just an understanding of, yes, there are there are men who are called to be pastors, priests, deacons, bishops, right? We would understand it that sense. But then the rest of us who are not called to lead the church also have vocation. And I think throughout the story of Jayber Crow, we see that his vocation was to be that barber, to be that grave digger, to be that church janitor. How can we recover that in American society, particularly coming from a Christian perspective, but understanding that even if we're not pursuing the good life in the sense of the American dream, but we're pursuing the good life in the sense of living that quiet life, how can that help us understand vocation in our lives?
We have a massive amount of tools that are available to us now. And I am of the opinion that a genius learns how to create his own vocation. Now, God does give us talents, He gives us abilities, but He also expects us to put legs to our prayers. There's a lethargic mentality that I notice in American Christianity now, particularly among evangelical Protestants. That if God wants it to happen, it'll just happen. There's nothing I can do about it. There's nothing that I need to do about it. Well, I don't know that. Why would God give you an opportunity to do something great when you do not have the ability or the humility to simply ask your neighbor how they're doing? To simply ask somebody who's a waitress at a restaurant who's obviously dealing with a serious problem if everything's okay. It's the small little everyday things that we need to be better at. But as far as vocation, the professionalization and the specialization that I spoke about that began during the turn of the 20th century, all that's breaking down now. It's all breaking down, largely because of the internet. The internet has opened many doors of opportunities for people to express their views and to be an influence in a good way. Unfortunately, at the other side of the coin, it allows for people of rather difficult in worldviews to have influence as well. And so now within the sphere of the online world, there's real spiritual warfare. And we have to be very gentle and very serious when we speak about things online, because there's in the culture we live in now, your entire career and vocation can be destroyed by what you say publicly. You don't have to go back to the land. You don't have to own land. You have to figure out what are those things that you're good at and refine those things and find a way to monetize them. And that doesn't mean that you need to make $2 million every year. It means that you ask God to be a good steward, that you would be a good steward of those things that you have been gifted with. Our land here, I love having it, but when I'm dead and gone, it's still going to be here. It's not going to be mine anymore. Any talents or abilities that I have, they don't belong to me. They belong to Christ. We are dead to ourselves, but we live through Christ. And this is the mentality that we need to recover. Even what we think our vocation is, we need to give that to God, because I can't do anything in and of my own self. When I started the Pipe Cottage brand, I was coming out of a time in my life where I was in ministry. I was an ordained minister, and I was paid staff, and I was coming out of that because I could feel a shift that this is not working. And so I started the brand because I thought, hey, I can start a pipe and tobacco business and start online, and then eventually I can build my own brick and mortar store. Well, we moved to Kentucky, and the Kentucky laws were so stringent that I just gave that up entirely. And so I thought, well, what's this brand for anymore? What's it for? Why do I continue making content? And then I started to talk about things that did not involve pipes and tobacco, such as agrarianism, such as Southern history, and a wide range of topics that I had been reading about and had studied both on my own and in my coursework in colleges. And I started to receive emails and messages and phone calls from people who were giving me words of encouragement and telling me how something I said had made them think about an aspect of their life that they had never considered before. And so since I converted to Catholicism 2 years ago, the brand has blossomed into something that I did not foresee when I started it. Just 3 days ago, I received a message from a young man in Georgia who told me that he was once adamantly opposed to anything I was talking about on my channel. He hates Catholicism. He admitted that. And then he admitted that he was in a car wreck not long after he told other people how much he hated me. He said that was a wake-up call. And long story short, this young man is coming into the Catholic Church on December 8th this year.
Wow.
And so that stories like that are happening all the time. And it's not just me. God is creating this sense of purpose and passion for that purpose. And that's where vocation comes from. If you don't have those two things, then you're wasting your time. You're simply working for $1. You're not working for a purpose. And so if we can recover some of that in American society, especially among young Christians, then we do have a chance to recover at least some of those things that the founders envisioned for the nation, and some of those things that Berry envisioned for the future of rural America in his own writing.